picture the world around you right now. Um, think about the roads you take on your morning commute, or like the public schools in your neighborhood.
Yeah, or the local hospitals you rely on.
Exactly. Every single one of those foundational pieces of society is funded fundamentally by human sweat, by
Yeah.
human labor.
Right.
The income tax drawn from the hours you work and the consumption tax drawn from the wages you spend.
Yep.
But what happens to your world, to all of those roads and hospitals, when human labor is no longer the main engine of the economy?
It's a huge question.
It really is. And that is the terrifying math at the center of a new proposal we're doing a deep dive on today. It's called Beyond Income Tax Funding Government in the AI Era.
And it comes from an organization called Probably42, which is a UK-based ideas factory.
Right. And yes, if you are a sci-fi fan, you definitely caught that reference.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a nod to the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Which is, honestly, a brilliant indicator of their mindset going into a problem this massive. I mean, they call themselves an ideas factory for a reason. They aren't a political party, and they're not pushing, like, a specific partisan ideology.
Right. They operate on this ethos they describe as principled pragmatism.
Exactly. They are looking for solutions that actually work in the real messy world, to benefit society as a whole, rather than just getting bogged down in the usual left versus right political conflicts.
So our mission on this deep dive is to unpack this proposal. We're going to figure out how artificial intelligence is quietly breaking our traditional tax system.
And it really is breaking it.
Yeah, and then explore this radical, pragmatic solution. Probably 42 proposes to fix it. A way to ensure that society, not just a handful of massive tech corporations, actually benefits from the AI revolution.
So important.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking backward for a second, because the proposal starts with, well, a bit of a painful history lesson regarding the 1960s and 70s.
Ah, yes, the broken promise.
Right. It talks about this broken promise from the early days of computerization.
The great utopia of the automated age. I mean, when mainframe computers first started hitting the corporate world, the widespread belief was that productivity would just skyrocket.
Like off the charts.
Exactly. To such a degree that by the time we reached the 21st century, human beings would be working drastically fewer hours for the exact same pay.
We were supposed to be transitioning into this society of leisure.
Where machines did the drudgery and humans just, pursued creative fulfillment.
Well, I am looking at my calendar right now, and I am not seeing a lot of that promised leisure time.
Me neither.
Most people are working just as hard, if not harder. So why didn't that utopia materialize? And I guess, why are the authors of this proposal warning that AI might just be a repeat of that broken promise if we do nothing?
Well, the distinction between past technological revolutions and the current AI revolution is profound.
Okay.
When the first wave of computers and automation was introduced, it undeniably eliminated certain types of manual, repetitive jobs.
Like the typing tool vanished.
Right. But that same technology created entirely new, massively expansive categories of human jobs.
Somebody had to write the software.
Exactly. Write the software, manage the networks, analyze the new data streams, build the actual hardware. The overall demand for human labor didn't shrink. It just shifted its focus.
So there was always a need for a human in the loop somewhere.
Precisely. But the authors of this proposal point out that AI is fundamentally different. When an AI system becomes capable enough to do the work of, say, a junior lawyer or an accountant,
Yeah.
the new roles created to manage that AI aren't necessarily human jobs in the traditional sense.
Right.
You might need one person to oversee the AI, but you no longer need the 10 junior employees. So the net amount of human labor required to generate the same or even greater economic output, it actually shrinks.
Wow. So the 1960s promise failed because the gains in productivity just went straight to corporate growth.
Yes.
Rather than, giving the workers their Friday off.
Because no specific structural action was ever taken to distribute those gains to the public. And the source material argues that if we allow AI to follow that exact same default path, we're going to see severe societal disruption.
We're talking about potentially permanent net job losses on a massive scale.
Exactly, with absolutely no mechanism in place to support the displaced people.
Which brings us to the tax base. You mentioned it's fragile under this scenario, but just how fragile are we talking?
Very.
If I look at the national budget of a modern economy, like the UK, how much of that is riding directly on people waking up, commuting, and earning a traditional paycheck?
It's an incredibly precarious situation, honestly. Roughly 40 to 45% of UK government revenue comes entirely from taxing labor.
Wow.
Yeah, that covers your income tax, national insurance, everything taken directly out of a worker's wages.
Almost half the budget
Yeah,
right there. And then you have to factor in what happens when those wages are actually spent.
right. Another 25 to 30% of the tax base comes from consumption taxes.
Like VAT.
VAT, duties on goods and services, exactly. But a consumption tax relies entirely on a populace that actually has disposable income to spend in the first place.
Right.
So you put those two figures together, and you are looking at over 70% of the nation's entire tax base relying almost entirely on humans holding traditional jobs.
That is wild. It's like, well, think of it like relying on a toll booth for your city's entire revenue stream.
Okay.
And suddenly, someone invents affordable flying cars.
Ah, right.
So the toll booth operator is sitting down there on an empty highway, staring at this massive drop in revenue, while all the actual value in traffic is zooming hundreds of feet over their head.
That analogy captures the dilemma perfectly because the economic value hasn't disappeared.
Right, the cars are still traveling.
Exactly. In fact, a highly automated economy is likely generating immense wealth, far more than before, because of the raw efficiency of AI.
But the toll booth can't catch it.
Exactly. The mechanism of value creation has shifted away from visible, taxable human labor and moved into intangible assets.
Like what?
We are talking about vast data sets, intellectual property, proprietary algorithms, and global digital platforms. The old tax system, your toll booth, is structurally blind to it.
It just doesn't apply.
It simply cannot catch that value.
Yeah.
And the authors ask us to run a thought experiment here. Imagine a world where rapid AI deployment leads to a 20% unemployment rate.
Okay.
How does a government keep hospitals open and roads paved when a fifth of its primary revenue stream just vanishes?
While at the same time, the demand for social support programs goes through the roof.
Exactly. And they push that scenario even further. What if the disruption hits 80%?
Oh, wow. The system just completely collapses.
The system collapses.
So if the value is bypassing the toll booth, how do we capture it without killing the flying car industry entirely?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because, I mean, you want to capture some of that new wealth to keep society running.
Right?
But you don't want to tax the innovators so heavily that they stop developing the technology in the first place. That balance seems almost impossible.
And this is where Probably 42 introduces the productivity contribution.
Okay.
It represents a complete shift in thinking about taxation. The proposal argues forcefully that we should not try to tax the specific technology itself,
Right.
and we clearly cannot rely on taxing human labor anymore. Instead, the government should take a share in the exceptional productivity gains that organizations achieve.
Okay, let's pause there. What does exceptional productivity actually mean in this context?
Good question.
Because productivity sounds like, a vague buzzword a CEO throws into a quarterly earnings presentation. It doesn't sound like a hard, mathematically rigorous metric you can build a national tax infrastructure around.
And this is the pragmatism part of their ethos coming into play. They need a proxy for productivity that is measurable, legally auditable, and already a standard part of corporate financial reporting.
Makes sense.
So they propose using the operating profit margin.
Okay.
This is simply the profit a company makes from its core operations divided by its total revenue. It's a completely universal accounting metric. The mechanism works like this. The government evaluates the broader economy and sets a threshold for what constitutes exceptional performance. The productivity contribution only applies to the operating margin that exceeds that specific threshold.
Okay, let's ground this in a specific example so the math is crystal clear for you listening. Let's say the government decides that a 30% operating margin is the baseline for exceptional success.
Okay, 30%.
Now imagine a mid-sized logistics company deploys a massive new AI routing system.
Yep.
They automate their supply chain, their fuel costs plummet, their warehouse overhead basically vanishes, and suddenly they hit a 40% operating margin.
Right. So under the productivity contribution framework, the government does not touch the first 30% of that margin.
Really?
That initial 30% is recognized as the well-earned reward for running a highly successful, optimized business. The contribution only applies to the 10% excess.
Like part above the threshold.
Exactly. The margin sitting between the 30% threshold and the 40% they actually achieved.
I am going to push back here, though.
Go for it.
Because if I am running that logistics company, I am furious.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I took the massive financial risk to implement that AI. I trained my systems. I navigated the growing pains. I made my company hyper-efficient. Why am I being penalized for succeeding?
It's a fair question.
Aren't we essentially telling companies, like, don't get you good at what you do, or the government will step in and punish you for it?
The authors completely anticipate that exact reaction.
I bet they do.
They stress that this is not a penalty on normal or even highly successful business operations. Standard, healthy profits are left completely untouched.
Okay.
In fact, the proposal outlines that incremental year-on-year improvements in your margin could be entirely exempt in the early stages,
Oh, interesting.
specifically to reward continuous innovation. It is designed to target only the massive, economy-disrupting quantum leaps in efficiency that AI uniquely enables at scale.
But let me press on that threshold concept a bit more. If the government sets the exceptional threshold at a 30% margin, won't a company just game the system?
How do you mean?
Like, if I see my margin creeping up to 32%, what is stopping me from intentionally blowing cash on extravagant corporate retreats or pointless executive bonuses just to artificially drive my margin down to 29% and avoid the tax completely?
Right, right. While it's a common theory of tax avoidance, in practice, intentionally destroying profitability rarely makes financial sense for a company or its shareholders.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Businesses exist to maximize total profit. Wasting an entire dollar of revenue just to save 30 cents in a potential contribution is just terrible business strategy.
Right, you're still losing 70 cents on the dollar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the authors address the deeper philosophical objection. You raised the idea of punishing success.
Right.
They establish a core principle for the AI era, and that is the technology must provide financially for the societal disruption it directly causes.
Because the AI is actively displacing the taxable human labor that used to fund the hospitals and the roads.
Precisely. AI is not just another private commercial tool like a better forklifts or a faster spreadsheet.
Right.
It is a society-shaping capability. Much of the foundational infrastructure, the internet, early algorithmic research, the educational systems that produce the engineers, all of that was funded by society over decades.
That's a great point.
So the proposal argues that when a corporation leverages that collective capability to achieve unprecedented exceptional returns, specifically by automating away human workers, society is fundamentally entitled to a share of those specific exceptional returns to balance the massive disruption it causes.
It's redefining the social contract of success in an automated world.
Exactly.
But wait, when people hear that AI is threatening jobs, the immediate reaction is almost always, tax the robots.
Right, the robot tax.
Or politicians just suggest hiking up the corporate tax rate on tech giants. Why build this whole new, complicated productivity contribution framework when we already have existing taxes we could just adjust?
Yeah, so the appendix of the source document spends a significant amount of time systematically dismantling those obvious alternatives, showing why they are structurally inadequate for the AI era.
Let's walk through those.
Let's look at corporation tax first. The instinct is tech companies are making record profits, just raise the tax rate on those profits.
It sounds like the easiest lever to pull.
It is the easiest lever, but it is also the least effective.
Why?
Corporation tax is notoriously easy for large multinational companies to game. Profits can be artificially shifted across borders to international tax havens.
Oh, right.
Companies can defer those profits indefinitely or reinvest them in ways that completely obscure the actual productivity gains they are making.
So they just hide the money.
Exactly. On top of that, if a government just implements a broad, sweeping increase to corporation tax, it deters investment across the entire economy. You risk pushing the most high-value, innovative tech companies out of your country entirely.
Okay, what about the robot tax approach?
Ah.
The idea that if a company deploys a software agent that replaces 3 human accountants, the company pays a specific tax on that software agent.
The fatal flaw of a robot tax becomes obvious the moment you ask one basic question. How do you legally define what AI actually is?
That sounds like trying to write a tax code for the concept of electricity.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. AI is no longer a distinct robot sitting in a corner. It is becoming fluidly embedded into every piece of supply chain software, every word processor, every email client.
Yeah.
If a government attempts to tax the deployment of the technology itself, it creates massive arbitrary legal boundaries.
Because tech companies will simply restructure their software architecture
Exactly.
and rename their processes to avoid whatever the legal definition of AI happens to be that year.
Right. And beyond the legal nightmare, a robot tax penalizes a company before they have even succeeded. You are taxing the initial investment, the input. That stifles innovation right out of the gate.
You're taxing the attempt to get better rather than capturing a share of the actual result of getting better.
Exactly. And that leads to the third common alternative they analyze, which is windfall taxes, sometimes called excess profit taxes.
Like what we see governments deploy against energy companies when global oil prices suddenly spike,
Exactly like that.
where the government steps in and says, you made way too much money this year because of global events outside your control, so hand some of it over.
The problem there is that windfall taxes are entirely retrospective and highly subjective.
Right.
A business cannot accurately plan its investments if it feels a sudden discretionary tax grab based on the political mood of the day.
It creates uncertainty.
A massive, chilling effect of uncertainty. The productivity contribution, by contrast, is a transparent rule set known well in advance.
It's predictable.
Yes. It targets highly measurable financial outcomes rather than ambiguous technical inputs, and it only triggers when exceptional, undeniable success is actually achieved.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's say the productivity contribution is the only logical path forward. We still live in a world where global tech giants are absolute masters of hiding their money.
They certainly are.
So if an overseas cloud computing firm is selling services to the UK, how do you actually stop them from artificially lowering their profit margin?
This is where the proposal introduces a mechanism called the virtual P&L.
Meaning profit and loss.
Right. The genius of this mechanism is that the contribution does not care where a company legally places its global headquarters. The rules apply to all sales made to organizations or individuals physically within the UK market.
I need a concrete example of how this virtual P&L stops the profit shifting. Because, the accounting tricks these companies use are incredibly complex.
Sure, let's use a standard tax avoidance scenario. Normally, a massive tech giant might have its headquarters in a low-tax country, say Ireland.
Right.
That Irish parent company will charge its UK branch a massive, somewhat arbitrary licensing fee for the privilege of using its AI algorithm.
Ah, I see.
On paper, that massive fee wipes out all the profit the UK branch made. The UK branch declares zero profit and pays zero UK tax, while all the actual money flows back to Ireland.
So how does the virtual P&L stop that?
The virtual P&L mechanism essentially builds a financial fence around the UK operations. It legally ignores that fake internal licensing fee.
Oh, wow.
It requires the company to record all the real revenue generated from UK citizens, and then it only allows them to deduct the actual genuine pounds spent on running the UK operation, like local server costs or local staff
It
salaries.
forces total transparency.
Yes.
By disallowing those artificial intragroup fees, the company has to report their margin based strictly on the real money moving through the UK economy. That completely levels the playing field. So a local, domestic startup isn't operating at a massive disadvantage compared to an international giant.
It achieves this level playing field immediately, without having to wait decades for some grand, unified international tax treaty to be negotiated among hundreds of countries.
There is a detail tucked into the source material that genuinely surprised me, actually.
Which part?
We've been analyzing this entirely as a tax, a mechanism to take money. But the authors suggest that in the very early days of the transition, to encourage the rapid uptake of AI, this mechanism could actually start at a negative rate.
Right, the early stage acceleration incentives.
It is a wild idea. They are essentially proposing that the government pays companies to adopt AI.
Yes.
It's like the government subsidizing you to put solar panels on your roof. They're willing to eat the cost up front, maybe by reducing your other corporate taxes as a reward, because they know the long-term efficiency of the technology benefits the entire national grid.
That's a great analogy. It reflects the author's fundamental belief that drastically increasing national productivity is the single most urgent goal for any modern economy.
Because it lifts all boats.
Right. Higher productivity is the only lever that can simultaneously deliver lower consumer prices, higher wages, and eventually a vastly expanded tax base. They want to aggressively accelerate the transition, not slow it down with red tape.
Makes sense.
Naturally, that negative rate is a temporary phase.
Sure.
Once the AI infrastructure is mature and those exceptional 40% profit margins become reality, the contribution phases into a positive rate and becomes the new primary engine of government funding.
So the virtual P&L stops the money from escaping overseas, and the mechanism eventually generates billions in new tax revenue.
Exactly.
But how do we prevent that money from just vanishing into general government budgets to, I don't know, patch potholes or buy office supplies? Does the proposal actually guarantee this wealth reaches the displaced workers we talked about?
This is where we circle back to the broken promise of the 1960s. The source material is adamant that the revenue from the productivity contribution does not go into the general tax pool.
Okay, well, where does it go?
It is ring-fenced into a dedicated National Productivity Wealth Fund. The entire purpose of this fund is to ensure the public directly and tangibly benefits from the AI revolution.
So it's kept completely separate.
Yes. In the short term, the money manages the massive job disruption, preventing people whose roles are automated from falling into poverty while they transition.
But the long-term vision goes much further than just providing a safety net for unemployed workers, doesn't it?
He does.
Because the proposal explicitly mentions using the wealth fund to deliver a gradual reduction in the working week while guaranteeing that people's income levels remain stable.
Right. To finally deliver on the utopia promised at the dawn of the computer age.
We finally get our Friday off.
Exactly. The logic is unassailable. If artificial intelligence doubles the overall productivity and wealth of a society, the human members of that society should not have to work twice as hard or live in constant fear of technological unemployment.
They should reap a collective dividend of time and financial security.
Yes. The productivity contribution is simply the fiscal plumbing required to make that societal vision mathematically possible.
So we're talking about a fundamental evolution here. Moving from a society that bases its survival on taxing human sweat to a society that sustains itself by sharing in the frictionless efficiency of machines.
It is a profound transition, moving from taxing the exhausting effort of the individual to capturing a dividend from the automated systems that serve the collective whole.
So for you listening to this, what does this actually mean for your future? It means that the AI revolution doesn't have to be a looming existential threat to your career or your livelihood.
Right.
We don't have to accept a dystopian default where massive tech monopolies hoard all the productivity gains while the national tax base crumbles and public services slowly collapse.
No, we don't.
With a pragmatic mechanism like the productivity contribution, the immense wealth generated by AI could genuinely fund a drastically better quality of life for everyone.
The true value of Probably42's proposal is that it isn't just a minor technical adjustment to the tax code.
It's much bigger.
It is a total structural realignment of how success is defined and shared in the 21st century. It demonstrates that by relying on principled pragmatism, we can balance unyielding technological innovation with the requirement for a fiercely fair society.
But, analyzing this structural shift does leave us with one massive lingering question.
What's that?
We started this deep dive by talking about how our entire world, our identity really, is built on human labor.
Yeah.
If a productivity contribution actually works, if human labor is no longer the absolute center of our economic survival, and our basic societal needs are funded by the exceptional output of machines, how will you and I choose to define our life's purpose when we wake up in the morning and no longer have to earn a living?
That is a question that will define an entirely new era of human history.
Truly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.